Good morning, everyone. Doctor, nurse, or maybe nurse doctor. I can't remember, whichever it's supposed to be. Braden here with you today, coming to you from the Orchid Isle. Today we will be discussing my curriculum and development paper for Nursing 613 program, development and evaluation. You may want to pause the video right now, go grab some popcorn, because this, my friends, is going to be awesome. Curriculum development is important to education. The Tyler model, or the rationale as it's otherwise known, of curriculum development will be addressed. And this is a process created many years ago and involves several types of questions or steps to work with. These 4 steps are: what educational purposes should the school seek to attain? What educational experiences could be provided that are likely to attain these purposes? And how can these educational experiences be effectively organized? And lastly, how can we determine whether the purposes are being attained? This process will be compared with the context, input, process, product, or the CIPP as it's otherwise known, evaluation model that was created by Stufflebeam in 1966. This model is widely used to evaluate educational programs, among other things. We will be taking a look at each model's background, review of the literature for them, their conceptual frameworks, how they're used, what they can be used for, if they encourage cultural competence, and moving on. Daniel Tanner in 1980 said, "Curriculum is the planned and guided learning experiences and intended learning outcomes formulated through the systematic reconstruction of knowledge and experiences under the auspices of the school for the learner's continuous and willful growth in impersonal social competence." Tyler's model is a deductive curriculum development method, and what this means is that it's a teacher-centered method instead of compared to a learner-centered inductive model. Along with this being a deductive model, it's also a technical scientific category of development for curriculum, which means that it reflects traditional educational views and schooling methods and is viewed more like an architecture or engineering. It's based on the 4 questions that I mentioned a couple minutes ago, and his model is an elaboration of these questions or steps, which may be restated as stating the objectives, collecting experience or selecting experiences, organizing experiences, and evaluate. The first question or step of stating the objective is the most important part of the philosophy. And once these have been created to be tentative objectives, they are filtered through the educational philosophy and psychology of learning screening, and then they become final learning objectives. After the final learning objectives have been determined, selecting and organizing of learning objectives is the next step. And then the last step is the evaluation, which is a process to see if the original objectives are being met because of the curriculum. The Tyler model for curriculum development is a widely used model. In fact, according to Feinberg, this behavioral rational approach, Tyler's model is one of these approaches, has been used for all subjects over the past 70 years. For example, Tyler's rationale was a part of a vital research paper about tourism education in the Commonwealth of Dominica. The behavioral rational approach is the foundation of the conceptual framework for Tyler's curriculum development model. This approach to curriculum development is the oldest approach and defines the why, what, how, when, and how much of the curriculum. In my opinion, I'd say that the Tyler model definitely allows for and encourages cultural competence in a curriculum development, and therefore hopefully culturally competent care for target populations. In fact, a study by Deng found that the Tyler model and curriculum studies focus on ways of constructing a curriculum for individual school or school system in response to the needs and demands of a society and culture, and understanding political, social, cultural, racial, and gender issues surrounding the curriculum. So that's the short version of the Tyler model, and next we'll be discussing the CIPP evaluation model. This model is a scientific approach to curriculum evaluation. Each stage, context, input, process, and product all serve as different evaluation steps in the entire process of evaluation. Context evaluation provides information for deciding upon the setting to be served, the goals associated with meeting needs, and the objectives associated with solving the problems. Input evaluation provides information for deciding whether outside assistance should be sought for meeting goals and objectives, what strategies should be employed, and what design or procedural plan should be employed for implementing the selected strategy. The third step, process evaluation, is the detection or prediction of defects in the design or implementation of the program while it's being actively implemented. And product evaluation is beneficial in that it provides information for deciding to continue, terminate, modify, or refocus a change activity for linking the activity to other major phases of the change process. There are many uses for the CIPP model, and it doesn't solely focus on curriculum. For example, there's a study that shows that there are factors which promote intercultural sensitivity based on the CIPP model. It's hard to find the framework for this model because it's recommended itself to be used as a framework. But I believe that I found it in 1965, going back a couple years there. Clark and Gupa presented a paper describing a taxonomy which classifies different parts of the change process, which serves as a framework for the CIPP model. Clark and Gupa's framework is broken down into 4 different activities, and they include research, development, diffusion, and adoption. This is what the CIPP model is based on. It's important to note here, though, that throughout this whole process, evaluation plays a vital role, and without it, theory may not actually come into practice. I didn't find anything regarding specifics about whether or not the CIPP model encourages cultural competence in curriculum or in healthcare for rural populations. I would say that, though it may not explicitly encourage cultural competence, the CIPP model definitely allows for such. It's a challenge to compare and contrast these two totally different things, a curriculum development process and an evaluation model. The background for the curriculum development and evaluation models arose many years ago. Both have been used effectively for many years. It's possible that you could even evaluate the curriculum that is developed by the Tyler model with the CIPP model, from what I've seen. They can both be used in various settings, which would make them valuable tools. They are both focused on education, on an educational setting, but I see how they might be used in different areas other than education. While the CIPP model does not specify anything about cultural competency, the Tyler model does. Both involve a step-by-step process that lead to an ultimate goal. These models have been created for us to use. They have been proven in their worth in various settings throughout the years, and these models are implemented. As these models are implemented, curriculum development and evaluation may prove effective in meeting the goals of the parties involved. That's all I have for you this afternoon. I hope you enjoyed this presentation on curriculum development and evaluation. Mahalo.